Hello, how are you, Verneka?
Hey,
You
I'm
doing
great.
okay?
How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful,
Good.
wonderful. It's so good to
Good.
be back.
I know. Look, how is your week been? What's been going on?
So this week was recovery week. Like I had COVID last week. I told you that, and so just getting my strength back and get back into the office again, meeting with clients. I didn't have a really busy schedule this week, but just getting back into the office and still calling people, meeting with people, and
Yeah.
networking. Doing my
I
gym
know.
thing and all the stuff I
I
like to
know
do.
that's right. Yes. Well, look,
Yeah.
I'm so
What
glad
about
you are
you?
feeling better. You look amazing, sis.
Well, thank you. You always do as well. So, how are you
Yes.
and how's your week?
You know what? I'm great. This week was awesome.
Oh, good.
I attended quite a few networking events and
Okay.
really just got a chance to get out here and talk to, males, females. I did go to a women's one and it was so enlightening. I mean, they were so excited, to hear
Okay.
more about what we do.
Mhm.
So hey, look, I figured we would just carry that on into the show this week.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, welcome back to Chick Chat about money. And today we're going to
Yes,
talk about, well, this is Life Insurance Awareness Month.
it
And
is.
yeah, so that's what our show is going to be about today. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the basics of life insurance and why we need it, why it's important. And we don't just need life insurance to for burial, but we can use life insurance while we live, and that is so important. That's why we want to teach people today and talk a little bit about that. And so I have a little story about the history of life insurance I want to share. Verneka, did you know where life insurance started? Do you know
You know
what?
what?
Yeah, it
No, I do
actually
not.
started in Rome. Yes.
That's kind of
So I'm gonna
sexy.
read. I'm gonna give you a little background story on it, okay, before we get started.
Okay. Yes, I love story time. Go ahead, sis.
So we're gonna start our story time a little early today. So it says,
Yes.
how did life insurance start? If you had lived in ancient Rome, you would have been worried about the cost of your funeral. The cost of your funeral procession would have included several paid performers. Your family might have been expected to pay for a band, a musician, actors, singers, and even clowns. Isn't
What?
that something? Yes.
Girl, they
And
turn that thing into a party.
And it says there were also the actual burial fees. So the burial grounds and the casket were just two of the necessary expenses. If you were cremated, there was the cost of constructing the fire plus the spices and perfumes used in the ceremony.
Wow, so I
Yes.
guess they cremated you on site, huh?
Yes. So as you can see, a funeral could get rather pricey, as it could today. But to meet the expenses of ancient Roman funerals, people began forming burial societies and clubs.
What?
Yes. So I'm going to finish. I'm almost finished. So the members of the club would each contribute. I'm sorry, contribute regularly to the club's fund that would pay for the future cost of burying a fellow club member. In this way, a sickly or aging club member could be confident that his family would not be stuck with paying for a costly funeral when he died. So when a member died, the society would appoint a committee to arrange and pay for the funeral arrangements. And so today we recognize those ancient Roman burial club funds as one of the earliest known kinds of life insurance. There you have
Wow. That's an amazing story. I have to say,
it.
look, I have already learned a lot already.
I know, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
But that's cool. I think, I think we should actually look to bring back the whole, making sure that everything is together and actually making it, making life insurance sexy again. So
Yeah.
many people feel like it's lackluster when I meet with them.
Mhm,
Sometimes they're
mhm,
like, oh, life insurance? Like, oh, it's just that. No, you need to get excited. So we need to bring
exactly.
back that culture of it being like a club and something really cool to have.
Society, girl, I'm gonna say girl society, but something else society. Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. We should find a name for that.
We should.
We
We have to
should.
work on that for next week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I love the story. And I don't know, just by chance. So, of course, we both do life insurance. Of
Yes.
course, we do financial services,
Hmm.
but a lot of times we use life insurance. And
Yes.
so, with it being life insurance awareness month, we're gonna get into some things today. It's gonna be more educational, and
Hmm.
we're just gonna tell y'all a little bit about it and just kind of discuss some things. So, sis, you
Yes.
wanna start?
Yeah. When I'm talking to people about life insurance, I think the first I'll say, well, my question is always, so what type of insurance do you want? Do you want term or do you want whole life? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, you don't know. So um, a lot of times people just haven't been educated on the difference between a term policy
Mhm.
and a whole life policy.
Yes.
And so now I always explain them that term is just what it says. It goes for a certain period of time. It's if it's a 10-year term, it expires in 10 years and you have no more coverage. If it's expires, if you have a 20-year term, it's 20 years and you don't have coverage. So it's almost like renting a car or renting a house. You rent it for a certain amount of time and it's never you. It's actually never yours. Well, life insurance is, and if you expire within that term. But if you expire outside that term, then you're out of luck. Um, so anyway, but so that's how I try to break it down for my clients, so they can have
Yeah.
an understanding before we try to show them what would be the best route for them to take. And then a lot of times people don't know that you can use a term for like mortgage protection. So if
Mhm.
you have a home and you want to do a life insurance policy, a lot of times when I have clients that buy new homes, we always try to add that mortgage protection because because you pay for your house during a term. So it's like a 20-year
Right.
term or 15, I think 15 or 30 years. So we may do maybe normally we don't do 15 years, but maybe a 20-year term or a 30-year term, and you can have that policy. And then we can go into a whole life. So, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's kind of
Okay.
how I kind of utilize term policies.
Okay. So
Hmm.
if I was sitting back, if I had never heard of term before, I could see
Hmm.
someone having the question of, well, why would I get term? Like, what is the benefit if it's only good for a certain amount of time? Like, why would I want to go with this one over the other options that we're going to get into? And so if you had that question, what do you
Yeah.
think the answer would be?
So I would say, if you have a lot of young adults,
Mhm.
with a family, you have a husband and wife and you have children, but sometimes you just have single people. But I always look at it I do both. So if you have a single young person who just want just minimum protection, just trying to watch their budget, and they may want to do a 10-year term. And then as they get older, if they're in their early 20s, then they may want to convert to a whole life at that particular time. Well, it's something that they have in place that's a protection piece, but it's also affordable for them at that particular time because you want people to get something that they can afford and they're going to keep.
True.
And so that's the way I look at it. And then the same thing for a family. If you have a family, sometimes it's tough when you have a family. You have a husband, wife, and you have like children, and you have all these expenses. You have mortgage. So a lot of times we try to, have a term. A lot of times, term is more beneficial when people are young and they're having children, and at that time, so they can have some type of level of protection. And then at some point, we may do a convertible term into a whole life policy. before they start
Okay.
getting too in age, as they age, because it gets more expensive. So those are the reasons why I use term. And then, like I said, for mortgage protection as well. Is
Absolutely.
that is that
Yes. Yes.
okay?
That was
Good
beautiful.
answer.
That was wonderful. I know a lot of times I'm sure to point out, the cheapness of term.
Yeah,
Like you said, a lot of times for people, it's budget friendly. You
yeah.
can get a larger amount of coverage for cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, just in the times that we're in, term life insurance can definitely be a benefit. Of course, if something were to happen, we want to make sure all bases are covered. If
Yes.
you have a family, if you have a business, we want to make sure you are good to go on all fronts in case something does happen. So I know a lot of times too, just to bring up since we were talking about term,
Mhm.
we also have a such thing as term with living benefits. And a lot of people don't know we are really brokers. So we don't work for any one company. We have access to about 70 different companies to meet whose ever needs that it needs to be. And so it's so many things that we can do. There's term with living benefits where, if you ever come down with a critical, chronic, or terminal illness and something happens where you can't work, heaven forbid, all this craziness is happening in the world. And, let's just say, for instance, just for example, heaven forbid there was a car accident. And and that happens all the time. And if you think about all the people who are on the road at any one time, anything could happen at any point. You think about truck drivers too. Of course, everybody drives, but sometimes truck drivers, they have a more dangerous, maybe a more dangerous profession. They're driving all the time. They could get sleepy. Someone else could get sleepy. And there's some things that could go really wrong really fast. And so being able to have that coverage, just in case something does happen, if you use the term of living benefits, you can get up to 2.2%. So you still have the death benefit that is cheap. And if something does happen, you are able, to take money from that policy. So a lot of
Right.
people don't know $1 million policy, you could actually, if something happened, you could take 20,000 a month off of that policy. Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome. Yeah.
20,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a
Yeah.
big
That's
deal.
that's the, I'm gonna say that's the new term.
I know. I know. That's the exclusive term.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of times when I talk to people, I tell people typically that's the kind of term that, wealthier people want. They
Yeah.
don't, they like protecting their families, but a lot of times they are savvy about every dollar. So if it's not something that I can use right now while I'm alive, I don't want it. So
Right.
that is another option too. Just off the top of your head, can you think of any other kind of terms that you may have, that you have access to with all these different companies that you can use? Just out of curiosity, you may not, you may or may not.
No, not the term with the living benefits. I don't. Is
Yeah.
that what you're speaking
Well,
about? Sir?
well, there is one more kind of term that people may want to look at. There's
Mhm.
something called a cashback term also, where
Okay.
you still have the cheapness. You will pay a little extra for the cashback option. But the great
Hmm.
thing is if you get a term policy for 30 years and nothing happens, you can get that money back. You
Oh,
paid
okay.
for the extra insurance to be
Yeah.
able to have that. And that
Okay.
is an option that we have available. And so, how cool is that? That's almost like going to a casino, you know, gambling. Something could happen. You could win the jackpot or you could crap. You could lose it
Yeah.
all. But
That's
at the
true.
end of the day, if something does happen, you and your family are covered. If nothing happens, I get all my money back. And
That's
I get
awesome.
to just walk out the door with my money back in my pocket. Isn't that cool?
That is, yeah, because I've written several cancer policies like that. Now, I've
Yes.
written cancer policies that if you never get cancer throughout the life of the policy, they'll give you a check for all your premiums back.
What?
Yes,
Now,
but I've
I
never heard of the term like that. So that's really interesting.
yeah, it's actually called a cashback term.
Cash
So
back.
yes, and that's pretty cool. It's an option that's out there actually with one of the carriers that we have available too.
Okay.
So we can always hook people up with that. And just to, even though I know we're on term, you made me think with the whole cancer policy, you know,
Yeah.
with people, I guess with the way that our food system is, maybe people being in such a rush where they're on the go, they eat a lot of, eat more fast food. Maybe they're not taking care of themselves as much. And if
Hmm.
something happens where they, are diagnosed with cancer, heaven forbid, most of the time they can't get coverage at that point. But we
Yeah.
do have an amazing company who has a cancer program where it is designed for if you're diagnosed with breast cancer, prostate cancer, cervical cancer, all the different types of cancers, they have a program where they will insure you anyway.
Hmm.
And so I think that's pretty cool too. I think
Yeah.
people should be aware of that. They shouldn't think like, oh my gosh, like it's too late for me. No,
Yeah.
we can figure something out for you. Not
And
no
that
problem.
happened to me this week. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interject.
I was done. I was done.
No, yes, I was going to say that happened to me this week. I had a client. Actually, it was last week. I
Mhm.
wrote a policy for a client, and she'd had cancer maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so when I called the underwriter, they were like, "Yeah, she could. We're going to look at it, her, case by case scenario." But it came back that they declined it immediately.
Wow.
So yeah, so she was very disappointed. So now she's thinking, "Oh, I can't get coverage anywhere." I said, "Yes, you can, and there's still hope. Just this company just will not touch it, but there are companies like you say will write, um, will
Yeah.
write cancer. Yeah, if you've had cancer before.
Yes.
Yes.
And they have these exclusive programs because we don't want anyone left behind. A
Yeah.
lot of times our mission is no family left behind.
Yeah.
And that's unfair that, something happened. You just never know.
It's your
Of
fault.
course,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
better to have life insurance before you need it because, as the meme says, life insurance may not be important to the wife, but turn around and ask the widow.
Yeah.
And so we just
That's
want to
true.
put some things in place to make sure that the family is taken care of and that person who transitioned on can transition on in peace. I mean, that's got to be disturbing. I don't, of course, I don't know how that process goes on the other side, but to leave this world and find out that me leaving this world, to go home to my father, left my family in shambles. And
Yeah.
so we have to make sure that the family carries on.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh yes. So what other kind of life insurances do we have?
So basically, I don't have any other life insurance, to be honest with you. All I have is the regular
Uh-huh.
term that I'm
Yes.
writing. I don't have any. Well, of course, I can write the living benefits, and then we can write the cash
Mhm.
back.
Yeah.
Um, but basically, do you have any other terms? I don't have any other, but the
Yeah.
10 year, 15 year, 20 year, um,
Yes.
30 years. And another thing too, what I try to tell people, when you do a term, you want to make sure that you don't want to when it expire before it expires at 20 years or 15 years or whatever, that we convert it, because as you age it gets more expensive. and
Right.
then and then a lot of times I talk to people, they're like, well, why is it so expensive? Well, you got every year we get a year older, we grow, we get older, so you have to
Mhm.
try to be mindful of that when you have these types of policies, so that
Right.
you are aware of, okay, next year I'm going to be 25, and so
Yes.
I need to looking to get maybe convert this policy to a whole life, or yeah, so
Yes. So the
so
earlier, the better.
The earlier the better.
Yes, if you want to save a coin,
Yes, most
you definitely
I
want to go
want to
ahead.
save the coin.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and I did want to bring up one other thing about the term of living benefits. For a lot of
Okay.
people, if you're a business owner, if you have an LLC, a S corp out here, if you have an incorporation, an actual business entity, getting term of living benefits, a policy like that, normally life insurance is not tax deductible. So when I say that, you can't get it and write it off at the end of the year. But if you have, if you're a business owner and you do have that business entity in place, now you have some different rules. Now you can actually write that off at the end of the year. So term of living benefits for a lot of people with business owners is what we call a zero wash policy. I mean, you get to have the protection, and they look at it like, well, Dr. Renee here has a family and she has a business. If something happens where where she goes down, her family and her business, could suffer. Matter of fact, who knows if we can even keep the business afloat? So in that case, this person, or in this example, you, Dr. Renee, you can get this policy and write it off. Now it's a business expense. So we have all kinds of ways that we can structure, and we have different types to fit all kinds of needs. So I did want to bring that up too.
Oh, good. That's a very good point. Very good point. Because we have a lot of small business that need and could use life insurance for their
You
business.
absolutely do.
They use it as a tax deduction. Yes.
Yes. And I mean, there's plenty industries. I mean, any and all business owners, if you own a LLC somewhere and maybe you're not even really doing something with it, as long as you have it in place, that's good enough. But I go back to people like truck drivers. I did help a gentleman maybe about 3 weeks ago who was a truck driver, age 38, wanted to get a term of living benefits for now because he drives trucks. And I'm like, if something happened to you, what now? What are we gonna do? If something happens, heaven forbid, where you can't use your legs anymore, how are you gonna drive? And that's a very dangerous profession. He was able to get a $750,000 term life insurance policy. Like I said, age 38, term of living benefits for $61 a month. Now, now I will say they're not all that cheap, but like I said, he's 38, he's young enough, he's driving, he's been driving for a while. And just to be able to pay $61 and he's going to write that off, yet if something were to happen to him, this gentleman could draw about $15,000 a month just to sit around, recover, relax, and just recuperate. So, I mean, what we do matters. It matters to a lot of people, but we just want to make sure that they know about the different options. So I did bring that up.
So let me ask you this question. So if you write the policy on your employees or your family members under your LLC, can that be the write-off as well? Or is it just for you individually? How does that work? I mean, because what if somebody has a business and they have like their mother working for them, their father and children, you know how that goes sometimes. You have your family members. So if they have employees, their families, their employees, could that be a write-off for them under the LLC?
You know what? If they are listed, then yes. And for a lot of people, I will talk to them. I'm like, okay, who is listed as your vice president? Who's listed as your secretary, your treasurer? If you have children, put them on there. That way you can get the same protection for them. And, off the record on the show, since we do have secrets sometimes around here.
Right. Have those.
We'll see. As long as you have even if you're thinking about having a business, as long as you have this business entity, in the books by 12/31, 22 at 11:59 p.m. Good. So, take advantage of it and use the write-offs. Protect your family.
Yeah.
We make sure that these phones are protected. We
Oh,
make
my
sure that
goodness.
our cars are protected. It's illegal
Yes.
for you to drive without car insurance. You
That's
have to,
true.
if you buy a home, you have to have homeowners insurance. If you rent an apartment, you can have renters insurance.
That's
Why
right.
wouldn't you protect your family just in case something happens? And I will say the wonderful thing about term with living benefits too is you're
Mhm.
able to use it now. Something in life is bound to happen.
Yeah.
Something. Whether it is, out the blue, whatever the case. But in life, that's a part of life. Things happen. So we
But you
want to make sure that we put some things in place. What are you gonna
and you know,
say?
yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I keep interrupting you. I apologize for that.
You're
I
perfect
get
over
excited
there.
when I talk about life insurance. So, I've had a couple of people to tell me
Mhm.
that, I'll ask myself, do you have life insurance? No, I'm not leaving my wife anything. And I'm thinking, what? So how do you handle um,
Yeah, some of those too.
situation like that? I'm like, what? You're not gonna leave her anything. But yeah, and I've had a lot of people say that I'm not leaving my family anything. I'm not doing that. And I'm thinking, why would you not want to leave them anything?
And you know
That is,
what?
mhm,
That is, when you think about it, it's selfish. Now, I
yeah.
will say I have met with some men before, and some of them have said, I don't even know if I'm gonna be with my wife in 3 years, let
Oh,
alone next year. So
oh.
why would I want to put anything in place?
Mm.
But But you should. If anything, take the more selfish route and get the term of living benefits. But, if we go back to the good book, the Bible says that a good man, and I mean when
Inheritance.
you leave this earth, you want to be known as a good man or a good woman. It
Mhm,
says a good
mhm.
man leaves something for his children's
That's
children.
his children's children. That's right.
So leave something. I mean, that woman that you may not care about, at some time probably birthed your children. You did probably love her at one
Yeah,
point,
at some point.
at some point. So the proper thing would be okay, if this person, if they have children, if they're going to have responsibilities, if they're going to be dealing with my family afterwards, I need to make sure that we're good with that. And that's
Yeah.
something else that you can do. You can actually set up a policy and make the instead of making a person the actual, the actual beneficiary,
Right.
you can make you can have a trust and you
Mm-hmm.
can make the trust the
Plus, yeah.
beneficiary,
Right.
and you can actually specify your own rules from the grave. If
Yeah.
you have a child, some people don't think about, if you have a child out here who, let's say the child has maybe substance abuse issues, drug issues, they've had issues, they've struggled their whole lives. And that's not a slight, because that has been a journey for them their whole life. And I've seen some parents in turmoil as to, should I do this? Because I don't want my child to get this money and blow it, or, go on a cocaine spree, or, end up hurting themselves. I don't want to put my child in that position. But
Right.
guess what? One thing that you can do is, like I said, you can have a trust. And that is one thing that we can help as well. Because of course, we did have a show before where we partnered with Legal Shield. And you can set up a trust and you can dictate the rules from the grave. How cool
Mm-hmm.
is that to say, okay, I have this money here, it's in the trust. If my child goes to rehab, if they're tested and they come out, they have to be tested every month. They're clean. They have to, whatever rules that you want them to have, they need to have a job, or, if you have a business or you want them to be a business owner, you can specify. In order for them to get this money, they have to go to school. You
Mm-hmm.
get to pick the rules and you get to rule from the grave. And so that's just about being smart and making sure that not only they're protected, but in this instance, they're protected from themselves. And that
Right.
can be huge for a
It
lot of
is.
families. There's ton, on the other hand, I do, I'm a pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for 14 years. I have seen people with track marks. I've seen people go back and forth. And
Yeah.
it's hard on the parents. It's
Yeah.
my baby that I love. Yet
Yeah.
I'm my baby is also an addict. I love my baby, but I don't love the addict side.
Yeah.
So we need to put some things in place where they can be taken care of. They can also get the help that they need the way that they should. And how cool would that be that your life insurance policy fuel the help that they need? So just another little take from the medical side of me.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to switch to whole life now? Good old whole life.
Yeah, so whole life is a little bit different. Well, actually, a
Mhm.
lot different.
Like
Um, yeah, whole life is basically goes your whole life. You never have to, once you buy a policy, you never have to. And I'll let you talk about the nuts and bolts of whole life, but I'm just going to generalize it.
yeah, go
So,
for
whole
it.
life is basically what it is it goes your whole life. And though your whole life used to go to age 70, and now it goes to age 120 because people are living so much longer. So it's, I think one policy I wrote, I think it goes to age 122. I know this guy was like, "What, are you serious? It goes to age 122?" I was like, "Yeah." He
Mhm.
said, "Well, I won't outlive that policy." And that's the whole idea, is because people were outliving their whole life policy and getting their money back.
Mhm.
So now they've extended the age limit to 120 or 122, whichever company you choose to go with. And
Mhm.
so once you buy that policy, you keep it, you have it your whole life, and it
Yeah.
builds cash value. So
Mhm.
that's the difference too. It does build, but there is some cash options with the term, like you mentioned, but this one builds cash value.
Yes.
And that means that you're building like little dividends or money every throughout the life of the policy. So you'll receive at the event, if you expire, you'll receive the death benefit as well as the cash value. You
Yes.
can also take a loan from the cash value if you choose to. So,
Mhm.
and how would you? Go ahead.
Well, it's funny that you said that because I always think 122, like people aren't going to outlive this, but it's so funny. Someone sent me a gentleman out of India the other day. He
Uh-huh.
is 124 years old.
Oh
Now,
goodness, they want to extend them. You said India. Okay.
124. Now, he looks like he's on the brink of death, but he's still alive. He's still breathing.
Oh wow, 120. That is such a blessing. 124.
124. But
Oh
believe
my!
it or
I
not,
know he's tired. I know he's tired.
I was tired looking at him. But, he just looked like everything was so labored, but it's still a blessing to be
It
here. But
is. That's
I got to
awesome.
thinking, even if this man outlived our policy limits, you can still cash this policy out. This man would still have tons of money that he could
Yeah.
live off of and still leave behind for his family. Even in the event of, whoo, I'm right here, somehow the Lord saw fit to leave me here, 121 years and a couple of months. If you get into
Mhm.
that 122, hey,
Wow.
cash
That's
it out. No
amazing.
big deal. Take the cash and do what you want to. You can still fund your life and still leave it for your family too.
Yeah, because we're only promised 70 years on this earth, and so wow,
Yeah.
that's additional 70. No, no, that's not different. What's the difference of that? Listen, my
Well,
terrible math. Yeah, that's like
no,
60 more years.
54 years.
54. Okay, yeah, that is amazing.
It
That's
is.
amazing.
It is. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I will say now, let me ask you, are you
Okay.
an advocate of whole life? I'm going to give the people my opinion. This is
Okay.
my opinion in the future. But I'm
Okay.
an
I'm gonna tell you.
Are
Okay.
you an advocate of whole life? And if you are, why are you an advocate? Like, what would be your point that's like, okay, this family needs whole life? What's your thoughts?
So okay, I'm just gonna say this. I'm an advocate of what I feel my client needs, whether it's whole life or term. Because I don't want to put somebody in a whole life policy, which I think whole life is wonderful. However, if you have a family who, they're on a budget and they can't really afford the whole life policy, I don't want to shove this to them and then they lose their policy because they can't afford to pay it in the next 6 months. So I try to do it based upon what people need and what people can afford, because at the end of the day, we want them to keep the policy versus whether it's a whole life or a term. That's
That is
that's the way I look at it. But I love whole life. I think whole life everybody should have it. However, if you can't afford it, then I always kind of go towards the term because it has so many benefits to it, um, and it's a wonderful policy to have.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. I probably should take a book out of your page on that one. Um, for a lot of people, I will say I'm guilty of shying away from whole life by itself. And yes,
Mhm.
it does build cash value. It gives you some options, some lower options where, if you want to do, 10,000, 20,000, 25,
Mhm.
final expense falls in that category too. Now I agree with final expense. If
I
you,
do.
if
Yeah.
you getting towards, you know, um, towards, let's say, the sunset versus the sunrise.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that we have a little extra protection there.
Yeah.
But normally, if I had a family and they were talking about, should I go a whole life? I will say I'm guilty of a lot of times shying them away because a lot of people don't realize, even though it's cash value, you are building dividends, as you said. And with those dividends, you're going to be making about 2 to 4% on your money. Now, some percentage is better than none,
Yeah.
but in my mind, 2 to 4%, that's not a whole lot. And even though it does build that cash value, here's a couple of little trade secrets that people don't know. When you go to borrow against it, your money is going to be expensive with whole life.
Yeah.
People don't know when you go to borrow from it, yes, your money grew at 2 to 4%, but when you go to take from it or to borrow against it, they're going to charge you 7 to 8% in interest. And I'm like, why? Now, the other side of me is, why should your money, for you to access your own money, why should it be more expensive than, why should it be more expensive than how it grew? And
Right.
when I go from that standpoint, I'm like, you could be getting more dividends from other places. We can figure some other things out. But like I said, for me, when I look at that, that's a drawback for a lot of people. Well, it will be a drawback in my opinion, let me say. I don't know. Let me just ask, do you have any takes on that? You may have a more positive spin, and I'm not trying not to be positive. It's
Oh no,
just
you're
my
fine. I mean, I think, well, it depends on, like I always say, you do a financial analysis when y'all do each family or person, individual, and you try to figure out what their needs are and what they want for is um, expenses, final expenses.
yeah,
So, you do that, you add all those numbers up and you see where they are, and then you kind of determine whether or not they need it to be in a term, they need to be in a whole life, or they need to be in the IUL. If you have a wealthy individual saying, well, I have like 2 million, or I have 500,000, or I have 200,000, then hey, we can put them over here. If they're saying,
right.
well, I barely pay this, but I can do $25 a month, well, we're gonna put you in a term.
That's
And
true.
if you kind of
That's very
if
true.
you in the middle, we're gonna put you in the whole life. Of course, you want everybody to be in the IUL, the higher end, but everybody can't.
That is
Maybe they
true.
can work towards that. Maybe they can work towards that at some
That's
point.
true.
But I
That's
just
true.
feel like I have to categorize people where they are. I have to meet them where they are.
That's
You
true.
know.
It's very true.
So
And
that's the way
I guess I look at it too. A lot of people don't realize, for me, another drawback with whole life. So this is me being on the other side over here. But another drawback for me with whole life is, going to not only, let's say, okay, for example, let's say somebody had a $25,000 policy and they have paid into it. This money has started adding up, the interest started adding up. And
Right.
now this $25,000 policy has grown to $35,000. You're going to access your money. If you go to access that 10,000, like I said before, it's more expensive. But also, if something were to happen in that time frame where let's say you didn't touch it, you would think if this policy grew to 35,000 and I had a $25,000 policy,
Right.
my family's going to get the 35,000. But that's not true.
No.
They're just going to get the $25,000 policy, and the company is going to keep the cash.
Right.
And from that standpoint, I'm like, you could do so much better. But
Yeah.
you're right. Really, I should start going from more of the standpoint of, let me meet you where you are. And we can
Yeah.
start here. And the great thing that we're into upgrades. Like Beyonce said, and famously in her song, let me upgrade you.
That's
So
it.
you're so right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point though. But I just feel that that's how I've always done. Dealing with clients, and that's how I was taught to do throughout the years, is do a analysis of where people are financially, and you want to put them in something that they're comfortable with, because you want them to keep what they do have and be
That's
comfortable
true.
and say, okay, well, this is my life insurance. I can at least afford to pay this. If I
Mhm.
lose my job, I can still probably pay this with. So you always want to be forward thinking, and when you are trying to get your clients into some type of policy for protection, not So I just look at it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, do you have any other light you want to share on whole life? You
So I
know,
don't. No, I don't. I'm gonna let you take the floor on talking about the whole life. I'm gonna let you go into the nuts and bolts of whole life and IULs and I'll let you
well,
rock out with
I don't want to come off, you know, uh I don't want to come off like I'm being impartial to the whole life. That's why I was thinking to do that though.
Oh, you're good.
You know.
Oh, you're
if
fine.
if you wanted to. But like I said, the most important thing is building cash.
Yeah.
If you building cash, you ahead of the game, at
That's
least.
exactly right. And then if you're building a compound interest, like our accounts do, they build compound interest. So, and
Mhm.
that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
If we can get more people um, who would, sometimes it's a sacrifice too. Because if
yeah,
you think that the money we spend eating out, I don't eat out, but well, occasionally, but eating out, buying junk,
true.
um, I mean, you can afford an IUL.
Yeah,
So, and you can talk about that. Why don't you talk a little bit about the IUL so people that kind of know what we're talking about, and
yeah,
break that down to them.
sure thing. So, now this is, I ain't gonna lie, this is my favorite topic, the
Oh, I
IUL.
know it is. I know. That's why I saved it for you. I was like, I'm gonna make sure she does this. She talks about this.
Look, like I said, you do have a point. We need to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And so for Life Insurance Awareness Month, we want to starting to talk about building wealth. And so let me say, being debt free does not mean building wealth. Those are two different things, two different
Right.
categories. And for me, the IUL, or Index Universal Life, that we do, is the way to go. And with that, I want to provide a little bit of evidence. So, some of this I'm going to read to you. It's from a book called Money, Wealth, and Life Insurance. And the subtitle is How the Wealthy Use Life Insurance to Supercharge Their Savings, Use it as their own personal bank, and have a tax free retirement. Now, keep in mind, under this subtitle, it says how the wealthy use. So not how your Uncle Jim, who almost made it a long time ago, not how Papa Ray, his. If we really want to know how to build wealth, we need to go to the source and the people who have already done it.
Done it.
Yeah, so we almost have to go back and do an introspective study of what they've done. And so I'm just going to give a couple of little clips, and I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from the book, just to lay out the case of where Index Universal Life comes from. So one of the chapters, chapter 2, actually talks about banks, corporations, and billions of dollars, not millions, but billions. It says, while many wealthy individuals maximize the use of life insurance, cash value life insurance, that is, there is one group that really understands its value. It is a sector of the economy that controls every aspect of the economy, and that is the banks. Cash value life insurance plays a massive role in financial institutions, corporations, and banks. More than you could ever imagine. These organizations buy life insurance by the billions, and use it for many different reasons. Not only does it increase their financial stability and reduce their taxes, it is an ideal place to fund employee pensions, healthcare costs, and other benefits. It's so common amongst banks and corporations that they even have their own name for it. So with banks, they actually have something called BOLI, BOLI, which is bank-owned life insurance. And they have COLI, which is corporation or corporate-owned life insurance. So BOLI and COLI, they have their own little affectionate name. And the question is, if you really think about it, why would these companies own cash value life insurance? Why? They don't have anyone that's going to die. They don't at all. And when I say these companies, believe it or not, every company on the S&P 500 has this type of life insurance. Yeah. So companies like Verizon, AT&T, Amazon, even Starbucks, why would they need to do this? Believe it or not, the bulk of their money goes over here, and it makes sure that the company is always in the green. They don't even invest in themselves. We are taught to, get a financial advisor and, do all these risky moves with our money so that one day we can have, financial independence. But we have to get out of that pattern of just throwing our money somewhere and hoping that it's going to shake out. We want to be able to have guarantees, and this offers guarantees. This book talks about what's called a tier 1 asset. So it is the safest type of asset you can own, period. So if the banks are going in that direction, if these companies on the S&P 500, these multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar, and even trillion-dollar companies, if they're going that direction and having the majority of their money, because a lot of these companies can have as much as 95% of their money in cash value life insurance, because they know that we're always going to profit. And if you think about it, they don't even invest in themselves. They invest in themselves through life insurance. We invest in them, and our money goes up and down. So we really just need to start doing things differently. I did want to point out too that, of course, y'all have heard us talk about these types of accounts. Every bank in the world has this account. So every small bank and every large bank, a lot of people don't realize they put their money in the bank. The bank pulls it and they put it into this BOLI that we were talking about. And that is their little cash cow. And if you think about it, there's actually a site where you can go and you can see how much these companies have made in a year off of their cash value life insurance. Bank of America has made over 24 billion with your dollars. So, congratulations to them.
I know, right?
Then of course, Chase Bank took the number one spot. Chase Bank made over 38 billion with our money. Our money. So, I'm an advocate of this compound interest that they're able to get, how it's the safest asset out there. We need to really have, start to get the knowledge that we need to say, okay, we've been doing things wrong. There's actually a chapter in there where they talk about the great deception, how, for the majority of times back in the 1900s, at least half of all money was in, cash value life insurance. And Wall Street came up with a nice little rules. They started telling people, no, you need to invest in the stock market. And that put money in financial advisors' pockets in financial firms. And Wall Street, their money quadrupled off of us. So that money transferred from us to these companies and to Wall Street. Now Wall Street is super rich. And in the meantime, wealthy people are like, okay, we stay in the course because this is where our money is guaranteed. A lot of them don't like risk and they don't like taxes. And being able to have this type of cash value life insurance does offer a way around that. So I can talk about this all day. But sis, I want to give you a second to chime in too.
No, I think you're on point. I love everything about the IUL, and you was talking about the big corporations, McDonald's, and all these restaurants. These big franchises. They all have these accounts, and it's what's made them so wealthy, even wealthier.
Right.
And so I think it's awesome, and I wish everyone could have this account.
Yeah. And there's been some big things done. I'm glad you mentioned that. Believe it or not, a long time ago, McDonald's was in trouble. McDonald's actually changed who managed them, and they were in trouble. They used cash value life insurance to bring that thing on back. And now, they're more profitable than ever. Stanford University was actually, founded and erected with cash value life insurance. There's countless other companies out there, but JCPenney also. You have presidents that ran and they use their cash value life insurance to start their campaign. I mean, everything from former, President Reagan to, McCain. McCain also did that so that he could run. And so it's so many uses that you can use. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I'm a little biased, but it's with good reason. But
Right.
I have so much that I could share regarding this, but I do want to mention and I want to offer a special offer to our listeners. We want to give y'all something special for tuning in.
Yes. Life Insurance Awareness Month.
Life Insurance Awareness Month. So that book, Money, Wealth, and Life Insurance, we want to be able to give you a PDF copy. So you can always pull it up. It does come in hardback, but it's by an author called Jake Thompson. But if you don't want to spend the money, or like I said, just for Life Insurance Awareness Month, we want to make sure that you have the tools. It's only a 70, maybe 70, 80 page book. But I promise you, it will change the way that you think about things, and it will start to change your life. But the change has to start here first. So look, we want y'all to be able to reach us so that you can get this book. You're always welcome to contact the station. Or, of course, you can find myself and Dr. Renee here, on social media. So you can find us on Facebook at any point. DM us, message us, any of that. I know personally on my page, I have my business card and I have a Calendly link. So you can book a consult and we can sit down and talk about what is best for you and your family, and we can help you with that. So, sis, well, I'll go ahead and give my number. So if you want to reach myself, of course, you can reach myself or Dr. Renee here. You can call my office number 1-833-837-6352. Or if you can look up the spelling of my name, Verneka, the numbers coincide with the letters. So 1-833-837-6352. And Dr. Renee, where can they reach you?
So my number is 423-876-5309, and that's my cell. And my office number is 855-937-6742. It's 855-937-6742. And also, my office is located at 3661 Brainerd Road. I'm local in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that's 37411. You can also reach me on Facebook, Midtown Insurance. You can just send me a message there, or you can call me, or just whatever you want to do.
Yes. And also just
9 to 5. I'm at the office every day from 9 to 5. Well, I'm in and out, but 9 to 5 is my office hours.
Okay. And like I said, you can reach me on social media. I do have a disclaimer about my previous page being hacked, but you should see a bunch of videos and a bunch of TikToks, and you can reach me at any point. I've actually extended my business hours out to midnight to accommodate more people and more families, more business owners, people who, people have busy schedules. So we want to give them an opportunity to meet with us and at the time that's convenient for you. So please reach out, get your free copy of Money, Wealth, and Life Insurance. So get that. It is Life Insurance Awareness Month. We are out of time, y'all. And
because I want us to mention quickly about if anybody wants to know more about what we do or want to partner with us, if you'll just contact us at those numbers that we've given you, that'll be awesome. So if you want to learn more about financial literacy, how to build wealth, just reach us, reach myself or Dr. Verneka. We'd love to talk to you, and maybe you want to partner with us. We can come speak at your local church or your schools, or just wherever, and our educational seminars. So we do that as well.
Yes. And just in case, I'll give y'all my cell also, in case you want to reach out to me directly. I keep this thing on my hip. So 731-616-3676. Again, that's 731-616-3676. If you wanted to know how to become an agent, if you want to change your life and be able to help other people change theirs, and not just their lives, but the trajectory of their family line, come join us. It's fun over here. You get to work with us directly, and we will help you build your business. So you get to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
That's right.
So, yeah. Y'all, we out of time. So
it's been so much fun. When you're talking about things you love, it goes by fast,
It does. And look, y'all, when y'all contact us, you always gonna get this energy. So look, until next week when we chit-chat about some more money. One more thing. Contact us. We're going to have a special event this Wednesday called The Truth About Life Insurance. It's going to be a huge event where we're going to disclose even more about life insurance. So you definitely want to attend. It is going to be on Zoom. So reach out to myself or Dr. Renee here to get that Zoom link, and so that you can come and join us too. So All right.
All right.
Throw that last
right.
little piece in there. But
Awesome. We're gonna
all right,
thank
y'all.
you for being here, and
Thank
you for tuning in to Chit Chat About Money.
Yes, y'all. See
We'll see you
y'all.
next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.